All right, we're live. Mike, congratulations. That was a
All right.
great performance.
Hello. Thank
Uh, we had
you
a
very much.
we
Nice to
had
play
a
twice.
yeah. It's nice to hear it twice. And it's that piece was such a
Yeah.
journey. There's so many things going on in there and such different worlds. It was really great to hear it twice, and you could actually place the scenes better the second time. I wanted to
Oh,
ask you,
good, good.
yeah, I wanted to ask you first. How do you feel about it? And is this the first time you're doing a solo bass, or how did you feel about
Oh, yeah.
doing this?
Yes, the first time. So no, when I first, you first announced the project, I was glad that it was Ricky that was paired because I know that he was a strings player and he plays bass and everything. So um, yeah, that made me excited to hear what he was going to do with the instrument.
Yeah. That was the first thing Ricky said. He said, I want to write for bass," because he's never written for bass.
Nice.
Is that right?
I hadn't been a solo bass piece. Only
Yeah.
parts where the bass is sitting below, it's doing its job, but really featuring it. I've never had a chance to. And since I do play, it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Mike and I have chatted about it at previous rehearsals, so it's nice to get the chance to actually do it.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Mike, I haven't seen you in a while. How have you been doing since March? And what have you been doing?
Um, Better.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it was, this was nice to have a project to focus on. It was a nice respite from alcohol consumption and have something to work on. So,
Stop you.
but no, it's better. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I imagine a
uh,
lot of the gigs have been canceled. You haven't been performing, have you?
yeah, pretty much all of them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but no, but it was, this was a good idea to keep things, going, give me something to focus on and work on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's
Ricky,
got me practicing.
yeah, Ricky, I just wanted to, we've been talking, and I just wanted you to, if you don't mind, tell people a little bit about what you've been dealing with, basically the last 2 years, but especially this year, just really briefly, just to give us a sense.
So, yeah, uh, autoimmune disorder with Guillain-Barré syndrome, and I've been recovering for just about 2 years into recovery. That hasn't been smooth and consistent. So I had a relapse in November and was improving right around the time we were talking about doing this project. And then I had a severe reaction to medication that was pretty physical. So attempting to write this while not being able to hold the bass for more than 10 minutes was a struggle, but in a way, it's part of the physical therapy. So it was something to do, but there were moments where I wanted to demonstrate stuff for Mike with promises of by the end of the week I'll get it because I was deluded with how quickly I would recover.
Mm.
But hey, I'm doing fairly well. I can sit in a chair, I can type, I can play for a little while, and hey, it is what it is. But for a quarantine like this, it was actually great.
Mm.
School canceled. I started teaching from home when I would have had to be home anyway. I wasn't allowed to leave the house when I couldn't leave anyway.
Yeah.
So all in all, I'm about what I would have been doing had we not had this issue. But the idea for the piece, this concept of repetition, I mean, when you're bedridden, the day is just sort of waiting in between moments of getting up. I mean, for a while, I had a timer on. I was up for 30 minutes and down for 30 minutes all day long.
Mm.
So that was the day. And as they sped into each other, moved into each other, I was looking at this initially as some kind of theme and variations, just sort of working on that repetitive nature of it. And then it evolved, and as things changed, obviously plenty of stuff happened in the world. And how it affected me is in these themes throughout the piece. They're written at specific times that things are happening, and you know, I know exactly what's going on in my mind when I'm writing
Right.
various moments.
Yeah. Yeah, for a 13 to 15-minute piece, it really went by so fast. You created
Yeah.
different sound worlds that really flowed into each other. The pacing was really great. And I felt like I could sink in to the piece and just be transported. There wasn't a moment where I thought, oh, I'm getting out of this, or, this is different, this is jarring. I just let myself be transported by the music. And so the reason I ask about the Guillain-Barré syndrome that you've been dealing with for the last 2 years, is because I feel like it's influenced in a way your work, or for sure how you work. But I wanted to
Yeah.
ask you if it's changed anything, or if you, in your process of writing, has that affected the outcome? In other words, your style, or even how you communicate things, how you structure things in your pieces.
Unquestionably, it has changed and continues to be changing how I perceive a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like, I'll look at the future. I mean, just to be blunt, I mean, there's moments where I was afraid I wouldn't make it through, you know, this has been rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so to be at those depths at times is something I had never experienced. And when I say bedridden, I mean, we're talking 2 months ago, it was a struggle to get up, to
Mm-hmm.
roll over bed. Every muscle, every fiber is not working. And you don't, as the days go on and this is repeating, you start to wonder if it's ever going to get better. You're told it will, but it doesn't feel like it will. As it starts to improve, and then you have massive setbacks, the same kind of thing. So it does change what's important, and the ability to write, writing a piece in the middle of all that is being written because I want to write some music, and I'm writing whatever's fun and whatever I'm enjoying, or whatever I'm experiencing. And I'm not doing it because I have to. I'm not doing it for anything, beyond writing music. What I've been doing for my whole life. It's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
If outlet for it, I'll still be sitting here recording stuff into the computer for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of ways, this one was that. The last piece I wrote for NakedEye was really inspired by this fascination with how a body can go through all of this and the mindsets within. This is not about that. Yeah, signal. But this piece isn't about that, really. This
Right.
was me sitting down to play something I would enjoy playing for somebody who would also enjoy playing it, just because it's fun to do. It's challenging enough that it's going to be something you can continue to learn and work on and improve. It's got enough flexibility that you can try things, change things, experiment as a player. But it's also very natural in the hands and fun to play. Everything sits right in a way that when I write for instruments that I don't personally play, I hope
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
it's naturally that it feels comfortable, but I know you just can't have that same reality versus writing for the instrument that you've got.
Yeah, I noticed
So I hope.
watching Mike play, it really seemed to flow. There didn't seem a moment where you thought, oh, this is really awkward, or um, is that how you felt about that?
Yeah, the parts felt really natural. Because like Ricky was saying, as he's a player, everything kind of lays, really nice and makes, musical, sense in that way. So, yeah, you really feel that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, Mike, Naked Eye is just one small thing that you do generally. I mean, it's, we have a few shows a year, but you've been playing a much different kind of music. For the people who don't know, can you just give us a sense of what you actually do as a bass player?
Sure. Yeah, I'm playing. I operate mostly in the rock world. Play in a couple, just a bunch of different bands, bass, some keyboards. So this this is definitely outside of my comfort zone, which is good. When Ricky was talking about, because I was asking him, could you demonstrate some of this stuff for me? Because I have a hard time seeing it on the page and getting a picture in my mind of what's supposed to sound like. I'm so used to learning things by ear, you know. So that was a good challenge. I mean, we talked about it a lot, so so that really helped. So it made me a little better reader.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially with, you know,
Was this one through composed?
this has been
Was it through composed, or are there sections where they're improv? Where you have improv?
Oh no, it's still composed. Within that, I mean, there's leeway, significant rubato, whatever, but everything's fully notated. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, something that we, because of technical challenges, I mean, we haven't been able to interact like I would normally with a player before a performance, being able to sit down, go for the parts, go back.
Right.
We really, it was, the score is the score with, you know, the directions are there. There's a few emails on, you know, clarifying a few things, but, you know, Mike's taking it and he's learning it as if I were not around, which for me is actually kind of refreshing to kind of look at a score come to life without, because I'm usually so involved, rehearsal after rehearsal and shaping, and is this right, is this wrong, that here we, you know, God, maybe 5, 6 moments, you know, where I got to say anything at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Which is actually kind of good. But for Mike, you know, this being a fresh experience, he hit it out of the park, I think.
Yeah.
No, really fantastic. Yeah.
Cool.
I'd actually, because most of the, even, you know, in new music, most of the pieces that we've played, the role of the bass is still one of foundation and structure and keeping everyone together. I think maybe just in a couple of instances you have maybe a few measures where you stand out and you have your own melody or something. But for the most part, it's sort of like the rock world. The bass is there to hold everyone together, right? And to move things along. So this was really, actually, it was really eye-opening for me to watch you play. Really fantastic. I'm really, really impressed.
Yeah, cool.
So, Ricky, I've been listening to like this kind of the span of your work. I mean, I'd already known it, but just to refresh it and to get it in my ears. And one thing I noticed about you is that we've known each other for a long time, for about 8 years now, and you've been writing for NakedEye for about that length of time. And a few years ago, you came up with, I think it was the Watch and Clock Museum project, and you came up with a piece that was radically different from what you'd ever done before. It was Clepsydra, where you kind of spaced things out. It was through composed, but it wasn't, the timing wasn't set in stone. So you had put notes here and there for 4 players. Was it 4 players? I'm blanking out. Percussion, piano, cello.
Percussion, piano,
Trio.
and guitar.
Oh, and guitar, right. Not the guitar, yes. So, and we all have events that we need to make happen in a sort of a timeline. For me, before this piece, everything you'd written was so complex, and especially rhythmically complex. I mean, you seem to have this like idea of, I want to create this chaos, but I want to write every single note in that chaos. And then suddenly you have this piece, Clepsydra, where you're just letting us kind of free flow, come in, come out, just with, you know, kind of a minimal guidance. And I've also noticed that harmonically your language seems to have changed. And I wanted to ask you if playing the sitar had anything to do with that. It seems to me that you've kind of drifted away from the modernist language, the atonal language, to something a little bit more consonant. I could be wrong, but you could just talk to that.
Not wrong at all. The sitar aspect is less behind it. That was something I've been doing for a long time. It was another tool I could use, that kind of drone type world. But yeah, most of what I had been writing was big hole, dense, crunchy, and hollow to play. And not necessarily, well, what I've been trying to figure out is exactly what you're talking about. How do you get that without making it held to and read and learn and put together? And NakedEye as a relationship, being able to be a composer working with the same ensemble repeatedly, that's open to me screwing things up or trying something that may not work, has been the greatest learning tool I've had in terms of, you know, being able to really look at what does a performer go through in learning a piece of music, and what do I want the music to say, and how can we do this in a way that works for both sides comfortably. So that's an element of the freedom or a different understanding of how things come together. As far as the tonal language, I think it's the long-standing struggle of erasing traditions from my way of writing. I don't need to do what I was taught to do. I can do what I want to do, and that's very hard as a academically trained composer to, as much as it can be consciously there that you want to not do that, it's just kind of where you lean. And more I've gone further and further back to what I wanted to do before I went to school, and the kind of things that I wrote before I was told what to write.
Right.
And I feeling freer and freer, and as you mentioned, some of what I've been going through has helped tremendously in the if I can honestly not give a crap what the people who taught me what to do would think, then I can write what I want.
Do you
And I
still
wish
do?
that were be done. And, I mean, there are 1,000 voices in my head telling me not to do what I'm doing every time I say
that. Sure.
yeah.
Sure.
And so each piece is a struggle with those, and I'm waiting for the day that they shut up. And they may never.
It takes a while. Everybody's different, but I guess that answers yeah, my question. I was wondering what was the impetus for you for this like almost radical change. There always seems to be a thread. I remember you telling me once that you easily get bored when listening to music, certain types of music, like extremely repetitive music, what we call minimalist, certain types of minimalist music. You get bored, and so I thought maybe that was one of the reasons you were just shifting, constantly trying to find something new for yourself, a new kind of way to express yourself. Because of all the composers I know now, your output has been the most unpredictable and varied in almost every way, in terms of instrumentation, style, what you incorporate. You've incorporated rock, you've incorporated David Bowie, the Ramones, you know, in your collage pieces. You've composed atonal modernist works, as well as we said, free form, more improvisatory work. So
I'd say, yeah, I mean, probably the one term that always, you know, when people ask you what kind of stuff do you do or what's your style, or what, the only term that ever made any sense to me was eclectic.
right.
And, you know, that's pretty much what I've always found. I like to explore things. And whatever is piquing my interest at the moment is what I work on. And I don't have a desire to, you know, well, I would always, you know, I went to a museum touring show of Monet, and they had the water lilies. And there was the famous water lily painting, and a whole room filled with water lily paintings that were varying forms of exactly the same thing. This guy had an idea, and he was trying to perfect something somehow that he wasn't getting out of the first, the second, the 20th, the 30th, until maybe he just quit. For me, there are some composers who that's it. They have a style, a concept, something that they're refining. I'm not that way. I've probably got 20 of them, and maybe I'm doing that when I feel like it with each, but they can be sporadic, and I have no specific need to focus on one or the other. What am I in the mood for, or what suits the moment? In this particular case, we have a time constraint too. I mean, 6 weeks to write a piece and not being very physically well.
Yeah.
There are elements of that that dictate how I approach it and what I wrote. And that's in every case when you're writing. Sometimes you've got a year, sometimes you've got 2 months. It depends.
Yeah.
That does shape things. So you don't have time to.
Your willingness to go pretty much
I was trying to
anywhere.
get to my throat.
Yeah. Your willingness to go pretty much anywhere you want really makes collaborating with you the most adventurous thing. Because the next commission, I don't even know if you know what's going to come up, but we don't know what form it's going to take. I mean, I think the bottom line with you since 2012 is that everything you've come up with has some kind of anchor within yourself. It's not, I never feel like there's a piece that comes out and it's not you. And more, there's that feeling that you're centering, that you're finding something that's very unique. And that's really exciting, to work with someone like that. So for us, it's been really a great learning curve as well.
I always hope you guys are enjoying it. And so, right now, it's like the experience with the piece, the engagement moving forward. You're going to get to do this again. I think we're going to record these things.
Yeah.
I want the piece to be exciting for you in that perspective, that you're looking forward to digging in and digging in and digging.
Oh yeah, I just, after playing it tonight, I already have things I want to do and try, to make it better.
So
yeah.
before we end this, I'd like to ask both of you what your plans are, if you have any. What are you thinking? Either while this is still going on, while we can't, socialize the way we used to, or what are your plans when this is all over? Let's start with you, Mike.
Yeah. Well, I learned that I have to, be flexible in the kind of work that's going to come. Because I don't know if when things are back to normal, if it's even going to be really normal. I don't know if it's long term. It's made me step up my teaching game, because that's another thing I do is teach private lessons. So trying to get people to stand with that, and that's just made me appreciate performing all the more. So I'm really looking forward to get back to doing that.
Ricky?
Well, so because I'm in the at-risk category, because of the autoimmune disorder, I have to be a little more life and death about avoiding as much as possible. So I think I've left the house 4 times for some doctor visits. My campus is closed to in-person classes through the fall, so I don't return to the classroom until January at the earliest, and I won't be until there's some cure treatment. So I was supposed to be in Istanbul right now originally, so I've got a new niece, and I'd love to meet her. But we'll figure out how to do that. Right now, I think this weekend I'm actually going to go down to the park and take a walk on the trail. I think I've got enough energy to actually do a bit of that. I've been walking around the city in circles for weeks, so I need a longer path.
Yeah, that's great. And do you have any writing projects? Anything that's knocking around in your head?
Always 100 different concepts or ideas. Right now, I've been messing around with more home studio guitar stuff, drum stuff. Things that I can play. Like this piece, it was a nice moment to sit down and just play something for fun. And tinkering. I just learned to refret guitar this week, and I didn't do a half-bad job of it, even carved my own nuts. So,
Wow.
all those little things. But yeah, there's, I keep looking over here because there's a pile of musical toys and things to play with that I will be experimenting with. And so I'm trying to figure out some stuff with medieval audio effects for guitar.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I find most fascinating about it is if you've got a piece that goes like click track, you can program into the click track the MIDI changes to signal to whatever pedal effects you have the changes. And so it does it automatically without the player needing to switch through a bunch
Oh,
of pedals and anything else. So there's the potential for some wild stuff for like a solo guitar, solo bass piece.
yeah.
But I need to experiment a lot more than I have to be coming to you and going, hey, cool, we're going to do this. So
Well, I think
that's
that's
my
what
plan.
yeah, I think that's what we all have. We have a lot more time now to do other things and to learn, that's the silver lining. At least for me too. I have time
Yeah.
to think about different things and plan and also think about projects that we can do now. I mean, to seize the moment, to try to find a new creative outlet in this medium, whether we like
Yeah,
it or
there's
not.
Right.
online streaming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even beyond
There's
that,
a
like how can
very
we harness, yeah, how can we harness this technology to create something new? Most of what we do and what you hear is live streaming things that are supposed to be live, so it's really just a stepping stone to something else. That things that are live streamed are not supposed to be live streamed. But what would be interesting for me is to find a language and a structure that would actually utilize this technology and that would actually belong and sound the best in this. So, I mean, it's something to think about.
Yeah, people get familiar with this because right
Yeah,
now, I mean, even the live shows we've had have, behind the scenes, it's still
yeah,
a lot of gotta learn how this stuff works,
right,
gotta
right,
figure out what's going on.
right. And
And
speaking of,
so,
yeah, I just wanted to touch from last week that people who were on the conversation last week. Obviously, I didn't X out of the stream, and so my frustration all just came out in one big groan. And I just wanted to address that just really quickly because I think I'm not the only one in this boat where we have to deal with all this technology, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So we're all learning, and I just wanted to make sure that people knew it wasn't the frustration of this particular conversation or from last week, but it was more the whole stress of the whole thing last week. So I think we got a little bit better this week. And so thank you to Ricky and Mike. And Mike, you were really wonderful, fantastic. And
Thanks so much.
next week, join us for cellist Peter Kubi will be premiering a new piece by Gleb Kanasevich called Capacity 2. So it's the second one of a series he's doing called Capacity. See you next week.
Awesome.
portrait.
Great. See ya.